is very pretty. Haram Sultana, Haram Sultan. It's just not as pretty. I love Roxelana. It just sounds more beautiful, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, Sultana is just her title.
It's just her title. Her name was Haram, which in Persian, Farsi means the laughing one, because she had a very laughing, happy personality.
Right. So, I think I was supposed to edit that and I didn't.
Oh.
Goodness knows.
Well, I haven't shared it yet. I was waiting till you told me to share it.
Okay, so I have to go back. I have to figure out how to go back. And okay.
Well, I'm sorry if people can't see me. Like, that's probably weird, but I mean, I guess I could make it. But last time you said nobody could see what I was doing when you showed me, so
Oh, well, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. Just
no. I just don't know what to do. Like, I just have bad angles. Like, the camera's very limited. So, like, I mean, I guess you could show me, but I'm just trying to figure out what to do myself on my end. So I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to see what's going on my own channel now. Okay, here we are. And I am going to mute that.
Okay, well, I'm going
to edit. And I'm going to edit the description because that's what I forgot to edit.
Okay.
So I am definitely painting with Julia. Painting Roxelana, Sultana with Julia, Hanna. And let's see if we need any kind of Julia.
See. It looks like it's okay. It looks like it's okay to share, like, painting Roxelana. Like, was it so? But you were changing it again, the title.
I'm changing the tags now.
Okay, because I'm looking just to see when I'm ready to share it. Just trying to see if maybe I can find a better way to show it.
Okay, all right. I think it should be fine. Why don't you check if I misspelled anything? Because I get very lax when I'm kind of rushed like this. So I might have misspelled something.
Painting is spelled correctly. Roxelana is spelled correctly. My name, everything. Oh, the description. It says, you might want to check the description just real fast.
Okay, I have to go back now. Yeah, the description is.
It says painting.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And then my last name is a little lowercase h, but that's okay. I'm not worried about it.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I was in a rush.
No, yeah, we're always like, I would like that Zoom could have more of a seamless, or YouTube, but I think YouTube just doesn't care anymore. I think they're all like, well, like, we're doing what we want to do. And you know what I found out, Aya? You can't even live stream, like, just on your computer anymore. If you wanted to from your own channel, you have to use, like if you're using a phone, you can, but if you want it on your phone with a webcam, you have to use, like, software like Zoom or YouNow or something.
Wow.
On your own channel, if you have more than 1,000 subscribers and you meet all the criteria. I don't understand. They just took that away because they didn't want to deal with they just didn't want to keep up that service. I think that's it.
I think that they were, first of all, they told us we needed to get a lot of hours. And if you're going to get a lot of hours on YouTube, one way to do it is to live stream and not edit, because every time you edit, spend hours on editing before you get anything up there. So then they thought people were just putting junk up, live streams that were of no use to anyone. So then they wanted to discourage the live streams. This is my theory.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of silly. Like, the rationale to me is I don't think they know what they're doing. I think they're just playing the game. I really do. I think they tell us they know what they're doing, but that's just my 401. I like your painting, though. It's looking really good. I'm going to share this on Facebook.
Okay. I'm going to bring my painting up closer. It doesn't have a face yet. It does not yet have a face.
It could be abstract art, though. Like, let's say it didn't have a face. I like the veil. Like, I just really love her veil, like what you did with it. It's so, like, flowy and So a lot of people, they don't know who Roxelana was, and she was the first queen of the Ottoman Empire because the sultans, they did not marry until Suleiman the Great. Like, he broke all the rules. Like, people kind of were mad at him because you weren't supposed to marry your concubines. Each concubine was only supposed to have one son because the mother wasn't supposed to divide her attention between multiple sons, because this would cause friction, and then they wouldn't know who, like, they'd be like, oh, well, the one mother's like favoring one son and she's plotting like empire takeover and whatnot. But the interesting thing about Roxelana was Suleiman the Great loved her so much that he had multiple sons with her. He waited until his mother passed away to marry her. Like, he probably would have married her and made her his only wife if his mother had been okay with it. But the fact that his mother, Devon, was just so against him marrying her during his lifetime, he didn't marry her until she passed away. But this woman had a lot of power. She went from being enslaved, like, she was Ukrainian. They say she's Polish, but I was trying to pinpoint what is her exact ethnicity. She's Ukrainian. She was abducted by Tartars, sold into slavery in Istanbul, somehow ended up in the harem. But she seems to have such a strong personality that she, like, out of all the women in that harem, she caught the eye of Suleiman the Great and became his favorite. And she misplaced his other favorite, Madrivan, who, I guess they hated each other. They were very jealous. Supposedly, Madrivan beat up Roxelana. There is a very good portrayal of this in this Turkish soap opera I'm watching, Magnificent Century. It's very fictionalized, but there's this great scene where Roxelana is leaving the chambers of Suleiman the Great, and she's wearing a red flowy dress, and she looks like a vixen. And Madrivan has just lost her second child. She just has a miscarriage, and she just sees Roxelana. It's very sad. That part's very sad. But what happens next is Madrivan beats up, like, nearly kills Roxelana. It's a little fictionalized, but they said yes, they did have a fight, and that's why Suleiman lost favor with her, because she was so jealous of Harab. He wanted to have both of them be in his life, but she was just so jealous that, like, the jealousy, I guess. But we have to keep in mind he was polygamous. This was his lifestyle. So people that are very like, oh my gosh, you should only be with one spouse, they're probably not going to like that. But it's history. That's what happened. And he did actually, they say he was faithful to Roxelana after, like, she made it known that she didn't want anybody else in his life. Like, when they got married, actually somebody gifted him 2 Russian, like, brides, like, you know, harem women. And she was so upset about it, so furious, that he sent them away to get rid of her, like, anger, her jealousy over it. Like, that's how attached she was to her. Like, she was that much of a force to be reckoned with. It's very interesting, though. You know, they always tell us the stories about how slaves have no power, they have no say. But she went from being a slave to the queen of the Ottoman Empire. So this is an interesting story, I think.
Yes, and she was a very interesting person. This is my reference here that I'm using for her from the Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think that if you are in a harem, it would be nice to appreciate the other women in the harem and not expect that you will be the only one who gets paid attention to.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying what she did was right. Actually, in Turkey, she's very controversial because people think, well, she caused friction. We don't know everything that happened. We don't know everything that passed. But yeah, she is a controversial figure to some degree. But at in that time period, I guess, okay, we don't know how historically accurate this is, but as I'm watching the soap opera, like, some of this is based on truth. I've been reading, and they say this could be truth. There is speculation her father was a Orthodox priest, and they were in a church service when the raid happened, and she saw her family killed, And the speculation is, in the soap opera anyway, is that she has such anger about what happened to her family, and she's going to show her captors that she cannot be suppressed and that she will rise again. Like there's this very, very dramatic scene that her family comes to her in a dream and they're like don't wish you were dead, like make us proud, like revenge, the best revenge is power. And it's kind of, it's very, but anyway, it's a soap opera.
Okay, well, it sounds like fun. I think I would love watching it. I'm just overextended right now with everything, but it sounds like something I might enjoy watching.
Yeah, if you had time. I mean, there's no need to watch it. Just the actual history, I mean, is that she was an interesting person. She's an example of how sometimes women can be very powerful, even though they say that women were always oppressed. But I'm not, of course, bad things happen to people in history, but there are strong characters that rise above certain situations. Like there must have been something about her. Like I know she had a very happy personality, and she caught the eye of Suleiman apparently. So it's just an interesting story. So how is your painting going, Aya?
Well, I'm trying to define the eye. I don't know that anybody can see what I'm doing though. Maybe I should get it closer.
You can if you want, but I can see. I mean, I can see, but just so everybody knows, you're gonna make another video later about your painting, right? Like
Yes. Yeah.
So I think, I mean, it's whatever you want to do, but I do see, like, I mean, I can see what you're doing.
And I hope I'm not getting in the way. Sometimes my body gets in the way of what I'm doing and then nobody can see what I did.
Yeah, that's why I decided to have this weird angle where you can't see me today, because although the webcam is kind of interesting, but I'm very fascinated with what you're doing. It's pretty cool. Let's see. And it's interesting watching a show. Well, from those Chinese series that you watch where you have to read all the subtitles, like you feel like you're learning a few words, but you can't take your eyes off the screen if you want to know what's happening. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, I never took my eyes off the screen anyway. I wasn't one of those people who would like be knitting and watching TV at the same time. Mm-hmm. I'm one of those people who have to concentrate. Otherwise, I don't get it. And so, yeah, and that's not just because of reading subtitles. That's anytime I'm watching TV. Mm-hmm. I either watch it all the way, with all of my heart, or I don't watch it at all.
See, that's kind of where I think I messed up with Daniel Deronda, because I thought I could do a couple other things. And I feel like if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss something.
Right. I mean, that's how I've always felt. That's how my father raised me. It's not how most people are, though. And so that's why they I had a lot of conflicts with people when they were trying to share a space with me, because I thought you either watched something or you didn't.
Well, that's fine. That's actually good. Like when you watch it that way, the story really well. Like I feel like the subtitles I mean, of course you should do that with anything, but the thing I really love about the subtitles is I think it really forces you to focus on the story. Like you have to really focus on the story, and then it forced me to go out and be like, well, what's true, what's not. And it's just funny, like I'm reading all these stories, or some people they love Roxelana. They're like, she was such a great woman. Some people are like, she brought an end to the Ottoman Empire. And then another guy's like saying, but it lasted for 400 years. And they're like, yes, but she put her drunken son on the throne. And I'm like, people are very passionate about history. It's kind of nice though, like to see that people are studying history and learning about all these people of the past. Like history's still very much alive. And don't you have a website about history, Aya?
Yes, it's called Historia Obscura.
So
I hope that you will write about Roxelana there.
That's actually really what I would like to do, just from What I would like to do, this is how I'm going to go about it, is I want to talk about how, I discovered her by watching a documentary. She's mentioned in that book that I'm reading about Turkey, like it's just a blurb about her. And I'm like, that's it. And then I realized we don't have any biographies on her. So I'm hoping we can get a biography about her, because I'm just curious to learn more like actual content about her life, because there's just so many misconceptions and a lot of people are very jealous of her. I'm not saying she was a saint, obviously, like she got to power because she could be manipulative, let's just put it that way. She was very good at the powers of diplomacy, but she was a contemporary. She corresponded with Catherine de Medici, I guess. I had heard references to that. So she was very contemporaneous with, Anne Boleyn, Catherine de Medici. I think she also wrote to some of the leaders in Poland during her lifetime. So she was a world leader. We just don't hear much about her because she wasn't the queen. And also just, I don't really feel like well, I mean, if you learn it on your own, yes, you've learned a lot about the classics, but I don't really feel like they teach a lot about Ottoman history or Greek history or ancient history of any, or more past history. You have to study these things on your own in the American educational system. They don't really, it's not very that deep on historical analysis. It's basically what I'm trying to convey.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was my experience anyway as a history major. I felt like even in college, you had to, if you wanted to learn more about something, you had to go off on your own and learn it, because at that time, it's probably different now, but we didn't have any Middle Eastern studies of any kind, not on Israel, not on Egypt, Syria, nothing. Like when I was attending UCR, they didn't have any Middle Eastern languages. It was Latin America and the Americas and Europe. And nothing on, and China. They had a few China specialists.
Yeah, well, it depends on where you went. Obviously, if you went to an Ivy League school, then just like Aaron Burr, you could study all the classics and you could know about.
That's true.
So when we say, oh, there used to not be, but now there is, it's not really exactly that way either.
Well, I mean, what I'm speaking about is like California universities. I'm not speaking of Ivy League schools or schools that focus on the classics, but in California, yes, it's not.
Well, again, if you went to Stanford, who knows?
Maybe. I'm not sure how good their history department is. I'd have to check and see.
Yeah, the thing is, we call everything college, and we act as if, oh, it's all the same. It's not the same. What they did to people who were not middle class is they told them, hey, you can go to college and we'll pay for it. And then you'll pay us back. But they sent them to schools that were not really colleges. They were less than high schools in terms of what used to be a high school. Are you still there?
Oh, yeah, I was just listening.
Uh-huh. So it's not that those things were not taught. They were taught to highbrow people in the past. And, right now everybody goes to high school. Everybody graduates high school and they don't get a high school education from it. I mean, not what it used to be.
No, definitely not.
And everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people then go to college, and college isn't what it used to be.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you on that. I don't think that it's becoming more rigorous over time. Actually, people used to argue with our professors just for giving the standard amount of reading. Like if it was just a very standard amount of reading and they were saying that was too much. And he said, this is a history class, right? Like what kind of class did you think you were signing up for? But we don't have time to read a book every week. Yeah, that's kind of, but I feel like that's kind of the direction it went. Like they want to make it, but I see what you're saying. Like people did study the classics in high school.
That's another thing. sometimes people think rigor is just reading a lot of material really fast, but you can't. That's just like watching TV and doing your ironing at the same time. Um, you're not going to focus. So actually, when people really did study the classics in high school and earlier and then in college, they didn't necessarily read a book like a Persian book a day or something like that, or a week. They actually took a year to read something that was difficult. And that's what you need. You need to focus on what you're doing rather than thinking that if you read a lot of things, you will know a lot of things.
So what are your ideas on reforming education? Like, would you say, like, without it being nationalized, like, how do you think?
Well, it already has been nationalized. I would say unnationalize it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so just leave it up to the local communities and things like that, right? To like
leave
people.
Leave it up to the parents what their children learn. So the parents can decide just to send a child to school or not, can decide to pay for school or not. And if a child is very smart, if a particular school sees a lot of potential there, then they could offer some education free of charge to the smart child.
That would be fair because the smart child knows their material, they're applying themselves, and they've earned that.
Well, they just have the potential to learn, and it would be a good return on investment.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So it doesn't mean that if people didn't have money, they wouldn't get an education, but it would be more based on people's interest in things and their ability.
Oh, your face is coming along, Aya. I can see. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be quite what I want at this early stage. You know, it takes a lot of coats to get it right.
Yeah, but so, okay. Oil versus acrylic, do you like that you can do the coats a little bit more quickly and it's not like over days, like that you have to wait for it to dry? Is that something that you appreciate about acrylic paints?
Yes, that's how it was sold to me as better for me than the other kind. But what I didn't realize is that what I wanted was a little bit more fluid, a little more fluidity anyway, because otherwise it's not going to be what I want. But does that make any sense?
No, it does, because acrylic paint is definitely not fluid. You have to add the gloss and things to kind of create that fluidity. I do love oil paint, to be honest with you. The acrylic's fun. I just feel like I have a really heavy paint style. And with acrylics, you kind of have to be careful though, because if you layer it on a lot, it can crack. So it's just, I have a little bit of like where I go back and I've done a couple different things again. And by the way, like that gloss, the spray gloss is probably better because I read like online, what can you use as a gloss? And I thought, oh, Mod Podge on the Plaid site, you can put this on a painting, and there's some people that show that on YouTube, but I wouldn't recommend it for a painting that you really like, Aya, because it makes it run a bit.
Yeah, well, yeah, I've never used Mod Podge, so I don't know much about it. I
love Modi.
Yeah, I don't find that my paintings crack no matter how many layers I put on them.
I put a lot of layers on because I put a lot on and I had some cracking. So it's like, it was getting kind of thick. Like I was like, okay.
Well, I mean, maybe on an iPhone case, but not, I wouldn't imagine that would happen elsewhere.
Oh, I've done an acrylic painting before where I, instead of oil, I did acrylics in the palm tree, and I ended up redoing it because the sky cracked. After 2 years, it cracked and I had to redo it.
Well, maybe if you seal it with varnish, it won't.
I didn't even varnish it back then. That was the problem. I should have varnished it. You see, that was the thing. Like, I didn't realize that was the thing. I was just playing around with acrylic paints. So I want to buy the spray varnish. I think that would have saved me.
Yeah, probably. Probably.
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I think that was part of why I went with oil paint, because I didn't experience all these cracking issues with things over time. Let's see. I was just looking to see if anybody had commented. That's a horrible angle. We haven't had any comments yet today, just if you were curious.
Okay, well, that's all right then.
Yeah. I know, like I'm just kind of looking since you're painting. I feel like it's a little bit easier for me to check.
So, did you say that there aren't any people actually watching right now, or?
No, there's actually 2 people that are watching. I just haven't seen any comments. Yeah, so I guess that's just. We'll comment in a bit, maybe later. Let's see. Make sure you can still see. I have been learning a couple of Turkish words from watching that show, Effendi. I need to look it up though, but they keep saying Effendi, and I'm not sure what that means, but it comes up a lot. So I'm going to look that up because I'm really curious what Effendi is. And you were right. Watching a show in a second language would be a really good way to learn a second language through osmosis. Just experience.
Does it mean Lord, like my Lord?
It may. I'm going to look it up right now because I'm like, what does Effendi mean? Because they keep saying, let's see. Sorry that my arm covers the thing. I'm going to type. Okay. Okay. This is interesting. Effendi or Effendi, originally from the Greek, Fendis is the Ottoman Turks, Arabic for Effendi, Persian for Effendi. No, yes, you're right, Lord or Master. See, it's pretty cool. That was one word that wasn't translated though, so I guess I had to look that one up.
Yeah, I think I remember in Lawrence of Arabia he used that word.
In Hebrew, do they have a word like bakshish, like for tip, like a
Yeah,
payment? What did they
yeah.
say in Hebrew?
Well, I mean, we know that word,
Oh, I
but
just didn't. Do you have a similar word though in Hebrew that's similar to that?
no, I mean, we know bakshish. We also know tip. We call also
Okay, I just was curious.
bakshish is from Arabic.
Yeah, it's Arabic, but they
It's
do
from
use it
the
in the
root to ask for something.
to ask for something. So
Lebak.
the
Yeah.
translation of that wasn't quite right. It would be more. It's not exactly like a bribe, but it's kind of a little bit more along those lines than a tip, right? Would you say?
Yeah, it's something that you don't have to pay, but you do. You're not required to, but it's a good thing. I mean, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, the whole idea of paying somebody else's servant to do their job, which they already have to do, some people think that's a bribe. So when you tip a server, some people don't like that because they say that the server is already being paid by his master. But everybody knows that if you want good service, that's what you have to do because the fact that the master has paid the servant to serve doesn't mean the servant actually will serve.
That's true, because if you're you need an incentive. If you the bakshish could give that person the incentive to provide a better service.
Well, it's a complicated subject that many people don't want to talk about. So we talk about respondeat superior, and a lot of people say, oh, that's just from the days when people who worked for other people were slaves or servants, and now they're not, but they actually still are. And it still applies.
Well, definitely. I mean, and if you work for somebody, you can't just do anything that you want. Like, you have to follow certain rules. You have to do what they, I mean, it's not the same as being in business for yourself, so to speak.
Right. It is not. There are certain benefits of being employed. Somebody else feeds you, even if there's no work to be done. And on the other hand, you don't get to decide everything that you do on your own.
It's a give and take, I guess.
Right.
I would like to eventually like make vlogging and what I do. Like, I would love that to be my full-time thing. It's just not feasible, and it doesn't seem, but you know what? I'm looking for alternatives because I'm never going to say never.
Well, the thing that you told me about paying for ads, I don't think that's going to work unless you're selling something. Do you know?
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're selling something, then yeah, you pay for ads for views on YouTube, and then what pays for that ad is not what YouTube pays you back, it's the fact that you sold something. But if you're not selling anything and you're just getting money from ads on YouTube, you can't take an ad out at the same rate and then expect the ads that you get back in to pay for that. Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, but it is helping me a little bit here and there, and I'll tell you why. Because I did experiment on and off for a couple of years, like with trying to build up my following, and I did have ads a couple times just for getting more people to follow my page, and that seemed to be the thing that would help that one channel like have a jump, and not completely because one of it was just a viral video, but I wasn't. So occasionally I feel like it does help me to get a few more followers on my Facebook page.
That's the question. Yeah, sure. You can get a few more followers. The question is, how much money are these followers worth to you in terms of income? If the answer is none, then it doesn't help that you have more followers.
Well, we'll see. Like, it's an experiment because, I seem to be getting more traffic from India now. So I would like to build up my search engine presence. And I'm not going to buy followers every day, but strategically once in a while, I think it's good to invest in that to see where it will go. So I'm like, I don't regret that I did it, but it does seem to be helping with my search engine traffic a bit. And you have to diversify, like you have to be open to these things sometimes. But I mean, I'm not saying other people do, but I'm definitely gonna look into that market.
Well, I don't have any problem with the Indian market, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
I've made money from India because people wanted to see bow grooming.
Yeah.
But the way I got that money was that YouTube was selling ads to advertisers, and that's where that money came from.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I were to have to pay to get those people from India to look at me and bow, then that would not be like I would not get extra pay. You see what I'm saying?
No, I see what you're saying. But okay. I just noticed my earnings are going up a little bit. They're going back up. I'm not saying that this is a long-term plan, but it does seem that it helps that I did that over the weekend. It seems like it's helping my growth a little bit more, because I was seeing kind of a slow spot, and they encourage us to buy the ads. So I thought I'll try it this time, but I'm going to gear the ads to a more strategic audience, to people who view my content. So that's why I'm experimenting with this. And I'm just curious, as if you write books, like, would this be a good market? That's just
well, here's the thing. This is why I think it's no good whatever for me is,
yeah.
My viewing audience, the ones that got me the income on YouTube, are, that they're very clear that what they want to see is bow grooming me, and some of them even come back and they will write comments that indicate that they think something wrong is happening, and they like that, and
That's
none of those people are going to be none of those people I expect will ever read my books, and they're not interested in anything I have to say on any topic whatsoever. So I have zero desire to encourage more of that.
Okay, I see. No, but I just wonder, is there another market within India that's not geared towards that just wants to read, that is interested in other cultures, that might be interested in, that's my guess. Like, there has to be another market for your books. We're not, and it's beyond these people that just are obsessed with bow, like in a weird kind of way. Like, I think there's other people out there. That's all I'm trying to figure out.
I'm sure there are, but in my search to, I don't mind receiving income from those people watching my videos. I'm not so stuck up that I don't want to do that, because if it's money, I'm willing to receive that money, and I don't care what they think. Okay.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. It's the other advertisers who are maybe selling them, I don't know, aphrodisiacs or something. Let them make money off these weird people, right?
Yeah.
I can't make money off them selling them any of my stuff.
I see what you're saying. I guess my niche is a little bit different. Like, okay, it's hair, but I've kind of been experimenting a little bit more lately. Like, yes, I do hair videos, but it's hair grooming. It's like ASMR. I don't know. It kind of goes into beauty. I can talk a little bit about how I grow my hair long. So, like, I'm okay with.
The question is, are you able to sell them any products of your own?
Oh no, I can't sell them anything. No, they're not going to buy anything from me. No, definitely not.
So it doesn't seem to me that by buying an ad, getting the views, let's say you legitimately get more views as a result of that ad, I don't think that they're watching you is going to pay for that ad, because your ad revenue is going to be about the same as what you paid to get them.
I see what you're saying. You feel like the investment in the ad just negates like anything you would earn. from the ads for the slight increase in viewership.
My view of it from an economic point of view. It's not any moralizing on my part or anything like that. It's just my economic conjecture is that it couldn't possibly work that way any more that it could work that I could sell you Kool-Aid and you could sell me Kool-Aid and we could make a living selling each other Kool-Aid.
Which is kind of what the MLM does. Like that's the problem with the whole.
Yeah.
Like
that is true.
I think I told you about the MLM experience I had over the summer with this person that was trying to sell me various things.
Well, you mentioned something, but I'm not sure I know the whole story.
Okay, so like this person befriended me and I thought, oh, they really seem to like me. And they were very like gracious at first. And he might have had some anger problems, but right away, like he started getting angry and really mean to me. Like when I want to buy something from him, like, okay, first off, like he said he wanted to go meet me at market night and I thought we were going to go meet. And then he's like, no, I have to go teach a class for my MLM. And I'm like, okay, but you said you wanted to meet. And he goes, well, you shouldn't expect people to give their time away. And then he told me that I could become a more effective communicator if I took his class.
Oh, okay. So he's selling you something. Yeah,
I was selling me something. And he got angry because I said, I'm not going to buy your class. And then he told me, I think he went off the rails here. He's not like the typical MLM guy. Like he was so mad because usually he was used to women. I think a lot of women just think, oh, he's gracious and they buy things from him. And then he told me, well, you could buy some products from me. Like, yeah, I have some women's products. I know it's a men's page, but you could definitely follow my page and buy products from me. So I just ignored him for a month. And I didn't talk to him. And then he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, yeah, I acted kind of like a jerk. I didn't mean to do that. So then we started talking again and he was bringing up again, like, I could buy products from him. I could buy a burial plot from him because he would get a kickback from this like local mortuary because he sits up there and tries to sell people burial plots. He sells them to people in his church. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to buy anything from you. And he's like, what? And he just, yeah, but the whole time I found out that's what they do. I think he kind of had some anger and he wasn't very good at it. Or he just was, okay, he was confounded with me because usually a lot of women, like I noticed, like I looked at his page, they're like, oh, you're so sweet, you're so cute. And I think they just bought things from him. And I was probably like the first person that would never buy anything from him. And he didn't know what to think about it. But that's what they do. They kind of guilt trip their family and friends into buying things. Like they'll buy like jewelry or they'll buy candles or something and they try to sell it to their friends and then they'll get their friends to sell it and the friends become their downline. Like they make more if they get their friends to try and sell it to their friends. And
yeah, well, I don't go in for all of that stuff. If you're going to do that, you might as well just have a job and work for a company that knows how to sell things. And you know what I'm saying?
No, definitely. But a lot of people like, okay, I thought this was just a woo-woo thing. I thought, oh, nobody's going to fall for that. But there's a lot of people just in mainstream America, they're buying. Have you heard of doTERRA? Like there's a lot of big, like people are involved in this. A lot of people buy this stuff. Like it's more widespread than I thought. Like a lot of people buy things from people in MLMs. I'm not saying everybody, but there's a lot of people that get roped into this.
Well, I think one that I heard of was LuLaRoe that recently kind of went belly up or something like that. Mm-hmm. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, it was a big controversy because people were making a lot of money with them at first. And then they started sending people packages of holy clothing, moldy clothing. And then a lot of people started writing like honest reviews about the product and you would get banned from a group if you did that. And then you'd get a message saying you can't say anything bad about the product, but the person selling the product would be like, but I have to be honest. Like I can't sell people like my friends and family like holy clothing. And some people, they lost their whole life savings on that whole LuLaRoe debacle.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not a real business. I'm just surprised how widespread it became is all, I guess.
Well, I think it helps if you understand the basics of economics. Doesn't mean you have to know everything, but you have to understand that you cannot make as money selling things to your friends. That's just not how it works.
So maybe I'm kind of deviating, but I guess what you're saying is kind of the same idea. You can't really sell an ad if you don't have something to sell. Like,
Right. I mean, has to be something that they really want to buy. Now, to tell you the truth, I am putting out products, and at one time I thought maybe I could draw, I would help people who have really successful channels to have self portraits on, portraits of themselves on their sites. And so they would sell the portraits, not me, and I would get paid by them.
Mhm.
That's what I was thinking because I realized there's no way I can sell anything to my audience. They don't buy anything.
Even the people who sell art, though, it's a lot of work. Like, one of the ladies, I used to interview her on Examiner. She finally opened her own art studio, but she said she'd go to all these crafting fairs and she almost wasn't really, like, with having to rent the tape. It's a lot of work.
With print on demand, all you have to do is have one painting that everybody really wants to hang on their wall. And that painting, it doesn't have to be that everybody likes all your paintings. And you sell that with print on demand. It's like, I'm not writing a new novel every day. I'm not thinking that I will make money by writing so many pages a day or something like that. That's not realistic.
Oh, no.
If I were to be successful as a writer, the way it would work is lots and lots of people would buy the exact same book. I wouldn't write a different book for each person.
Oh, no, definitely not. Nobody does that. You just would like to market the books you do have.
Right.
So what do you think would be better then, since a lot of a YouTube audience might not be who you want to market your book for? Like,
well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that I have the answer. What I'm saying is I would not buy advertising to get more views from people who don't buy anything.
Okay, I see what you're saying. That's fair enough. I was just experimenting. Like, it might not be lucrative in the long term, but I just felt like it was giving me a little bit more, like, leverage, a little bit more viewership, helping to push like a few. Like, I felt like with my Facebook, like, I just feel like they don't. But of course they want you to buy an ad, so I probably just gave them some money.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you might have a different situation from me. My situation is that I realize that even if it's a picture of Bo, they're not buying that. They're just not.
I'm confused by that, though. If they love grooming videos and they love watching Bo, and they supposedly like there's people they love chimpanzees, you think that would be something that they would be interested in buying. Like, to me, I'm just like, that confuses me a little bit. Like, I would think they would want a Bo pop socket.
Well, I don't think they need it. They don't have to have it. And honestly, to that extent, I understand that I don't really know economics that well.
Mm-hmm.
So I get that my expectation of selling that was kind of naive to begin with. I mean, it was me trying. There's nothing wrong with trying. But really, honestly, I mean, even when I used to like stuff on TV, like Dark Shadows, and I was a fan or whatever, I didn't buy everything that was for sale. I couldn't.
No.
So there's a limit on how much money people will spend on things that they don't have to have.
Oh, definitely. I would say that's the reason a lot of people, like, if they do make some sort of art theme thing, I see a lot of like popular things like movie inspired art, movie inspired products. Like, I don't see many people just making. I think Roxelana is interesting, but I don't think there's going to be a high demand for Roxelana Christmas ornaments, so to speak. But people do sell like Disney themed Christmas ornaments. Like, they'll make their own, and I see that seems to be something that's very in high demand for the online markets, like crafting wise, art wise.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. When I wrote Theodosia and the Pirates, that was me trying to be kind of smart about it. I knew there was a Theodosia fandom.
Mm-hmm.
Theodosia is not somebody who is franchised by anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought I could interest all those people who are writing about Theodosia, all these people who are writing about Jean Lafitte, and I would be able to reach them
Mm-hmm.
and then tell them something else that they hadn't thought of before. So I did have a plan.
No, I know you planned it out, like you had researched it, and
yeah, but it did not work. And I ended up alienating all the different people in the fandoms because they didn't like my vision.
I'm still confused by that though, because we don't really know what happened to Theodosia Burr. There's other people who have written fiction about her and Jean Lafitte. I don't think it was, I think it was just a few like vocal people that just seemed to, I mean, there's always going to be.
Were the vocal people whose help I wanted, you see.
Oh, so you think that that's a lot of people that would have bought the book? Like,
well, here's what I'm saying. I knew there was a guy who had written a biography of Theodosia. And I read his biography and I incorporated in my story some stuff that was, his conjecture, not necessarily mine.
mm-hmm.
He had a conjecture that Theodosia was suffering from a certain condition.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if she was or not. Really doesn't matter to me. But I thought, okay, I'll go along with that. He said, okay, what happened was he thought she was almost virginal. That that she and her husband had sex one time, conceived of one child, and it's true they never had another child after the.
Well, that could be a possibility because that explains why some people. I mean, that conjecture is very interesting.
So I went with it. So his conjecture was she was injured during childbirth. She had a retroverted uterus.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why she was in a lot of pain afterwards. And that's why they never had another child. And that's why maybe her husband and she weren't so much in love, or maybe he was unfaithful to her or not, as the case may be. So I took that. It wasn't the most important part of the thing for me, but I took that from his work, incorporated it into the story that I was writing, and then gave him credit for it. At the end, I had a list of people that I was quoting, people,
mm-hmm.
And I was suggesting that people go read that. So here I was being nice, helping to sell his book.
Mm-hmm.
And then he wrote, when I sent him mine to read, he wrote me that he wasn't going to write anything about it because it was so awful. I was so awful. I was taking advantage of the beautiful memory of Theodosia, and he got very angry, and he said he was not going to even dignify what I had written with a review or any kind of mention of it because of that. So anyway, I guess, yeah. So me saying that maybe there's a way to solve this if it was a retroverted uterus. Okay, I did look that up. I mean, I did look it up. I did the research.
Mm-hmm. I remember in your book, like you talk, there's a lot of technical terminology.
Yeah. So I don't know. Anyway, it's like I didn't get what was important to him. I didn't understand him. I guess I should have realized that this is not the way to do it, but I didn't know that.
But it happens a lot in fiction, like even with the big, like, okay, I know it's Stephanie Meyer once again, but did you know she angered a lot of people in the vampire community because she didn't research vampires? Or she had an idea from like the Bronte novel, like there was something or something like in fiction, and she made up her own vampires. But a lot of people were mad at her because they said that the things that she said vampires could do are things that vampires would never do. And I'm like,
okay, they're not real, so
they're not real. But here's the thing about Theodosia as well. She was a real person, but we don't know exactly what happened to her. We don't know exactly what her husband and her did. So to have that strong of an opinion about, like, I don't feel like what you planned for Theodosia was that horrible. It seemed like she had a good legacy instead of like dying in the ocean, which, by the way, spoiler alert, that's what a lot of the books say happened to her. I thought your legacy for her was better than that.
Yeah, well, apparently that guy, and I didn't realize he was a Puritan or something, he didn't want her to have any fun, you know?
Oh, I see. Like he wanted her to be like virginal. He wanted her to be like this, like paragon. Like I think that's what he's trying to say is he didn't want her to be human, perhaps, maybe
Yes,
angelic.
exactly.
He wanted to put her on a pedestal, like, but we don't know what she was like in real life. Like we don't really know, like everything. And you knew, like you pointed out that she was educated and her father was Aaron Burr, so she would have had more knowledge than maybe a typical woman. Like maybe she would have, I mean, we don't know everything about her, so I don't really think he should have been that upset about your fictional.
Well, it's not what he should have, it's what I should have realized about him. I read him, but I was naive about what motivated him.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you feel like you didn't research like the
I
reactions.
I didn't it might be because I'm just bad reading people. It's not that I didn't research. I researched everything. I worked very hard. I thought I had a great sales plan. So there's this other lady, she was a Jean Lafitte fan, okay? And so I was targeting her too. She had a blog about Jean Lafitte, and I thought if she liked the book, she could write about it in her blog. And then all these other people who are Jean Lafitte fans would be interested. So they would write a book. This was all my long-term marketing plan. I don't have a marketing plan for any future books, so I'm not planning to write any. But that was my marketing plan. So I sent her this book, and this particular woman was really interested in the fact that Jean Lafitte had a Jewish grandmother. Okay, so I did mention that in my novel a lot. So, but then when I sent her the novel in advance, the first thing she asked me is this a book for children? And I did not understand why she was asking that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So anyway, she didn't show any inclination to review the book. She was just, it's like she had no idea what kind of book this is. And reading it was like not something she was going to do. I don't know. I just don't get it. I mean, if you were a Jean Lafitte fan and there was a book about Jean Lafitte, wouldn't you read it?
I would, and that's the thing too. Like, okay, but I think people get very, oh my gosh, heated about what happened to their historical character. And I'm beginning to see that with this Magnificent Century show. People are getting mad. They're like, oh, this is very beautiful, but this is not what really happened, or it didn't happen that way. Or maybe people are, I don't know, they're just very invested in their own vision of what this historical figure would have said and done, that somebody else saying it in a way that they think should not have happened just makes people very strongly feeling about, I don't know.
Well, it's not that I would have minded if there were a lot of healthy debate about this. It's just that what these people did is they drowned my work so that it was never seen. It never saw the light of day.
But it's
nobody knows that it exists.
It still can though, because here's the thing, there's always up and coming people. They don't know who John Lafitte is. They don't know who Theodosia Burr is. They don't know who Aaron Burr is. They are people that like to read fiction. So I don't think we discount people who haven't discovered it yet because they can make up their own mind without having these preconceived notions. That's why I think, yes, maybe that marketing plan didn't work, but that doesn't mean there can't be a new one for an audience that hasn't discovered it yet. But that's just my take on it.
Oh, that's fine, but that's true of all my novels.
Yeah.
They could be discovered. But, in the past, I was told, listen, who's your audience? And I didn't have any particular audience in mind.
Mm-hmm.
I was just writing it because I was interested in those topics. And so when I went and talked to agents, you keep mentioning agents. This is
Oh
way
gosh, the
beyond
agent
agents.
thing. Yes.
Yeah, but I did talk to agents, and they said things like, "Well, did you research your market? Who exactly is your market?" And at that time, I was very naive, and I thought everybody was my market. I thought everybody would enjoy reading my books, and they told me, that's not how it works. I mean, of course, if everybody wants a bestseller, but you can't start out by expecting that everybody will like your books.
True.
And so you need to figure out what your market is. So in the case of Theodosia and the Pirates, I figured out what my market was.
Summer! Is summer going to come? I feel like you researched your market, and it wasn't that you didn't research the market, but how are we supposed to know how everybody that's part of that market is going to react to the book? It just
seems. Some people say that is your job as an author. You have to figure out how everybody in the market reacts to stuff. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I guess I feel like you have to have some sort of agent. You have to have somebody to kind of help with those things. So some of the famous writers, they have one book that's done really well, but their other books are kind of like a flat pancake. Like, even I love Lisa C. Like, I think she's written some really good books, but that sequel to Shanghai Girls was like a flat pancake. And she even said, I didn't want to write this, but my publisher said I needed to write a sequel. And it didn't really, I don't think that people were as excited about that one. And then I noticed when she wrote her next book, China Dolls, it seems like people were more excited about that one. It was like it kind of redeemed her, because I think she did disappoint our audience a bit with that sequel. It just wasn't very good. Like, the first book was really good. It was really good. It went into the history. It made sense. But the second one, it was just kind of contrived. And she even said, oh, I don't really want to write this, but my publisher suggested I should. So, and I've noticed with her on Goodreads, like, she has somebody that promotes her books. They're like, you can participate in like getting an advanced copy and promoting on your blog. You can do this. Like, she has a lot of people promoting what she's doing. So I guess
I understand, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with just starting out.
Yeah.
And but I don't write anything. I don't write novels that I'm not interested in. I don't.
No, yeah, no, you don't. That's why I'm saying for you, I feel like since you believed in everything you wrote, it'll be that much. I guess I wish I was better at the marketing strategy. I just feel like if you had a way to market this, you could have more readers.
Well, yeah. So I was talking to you about my strategy, and it just backfired because, except for Pam Keys, I was in touch with Pam Keys, and she did like the book, but she really didn't have a lot of influence, even though she was part of the Jean Lafitte Society. They're all a bunch of, they're
scholars, right? Kind of.
They're not. Most of them are just very wealthy people who happen to live around Galveston.
Mm-hmm.
And they like to talk about the history of Galveston. And of course, Jean Lafitte was influential in that, but they're not really interested in him, and they don't believe the journal of Jean Lafitte is real.
Oh.
Okay. And of course, what she liked about my book was that I took the journal seriously. And
she valued that you actually. Well, my question about the whole John Lafitte journal controversy is, why do they think that the journal is conjecture? Like, what is it that, like, what would be
it's sort of like, why do you think this woman is not Anastasia when she shows up a long time later? Whether she is or not, there's going to be a lot of doubt just because all that time went by. So Jonathan had his journal. He didn't immediately publish it during his lifetime because he was in hiding, because he was pretending to be dead,
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, there there were warrants out for his arrest.
Oh yeah, I don't think he's gonna be like, hi, here I am. I'm just like strolling down. No.
So he left it with his heirs to be published long after his death. But then people said, how do we know you're the heir? And how do we know, that this is really the journal? It looks like it's written by somebody who doesn't know how to spell. Well, we think he should know how to spell. And it looks like somebody who had a lot of Spanish words in his French, and we think he should be a perfect Frenchman, and so on and so forth. So everything about it that is unique and is actually the truth, they took to be a sign that it was not,
Gee.
Because he wasn't a nobleman. He wasn't a French nobleman. He wasn't somebody who just had everything handed to him. His French was not perfect French from Paris.
No, he didn't live in Paris. He grew up in the Caribbean, correct?
Correct. Yeah. He was born in Saint Domingue. And his family, even the French side of his family, and he had a French side and a Spanish side. But even the French side, they were Huguenots who went to live in Switzerland because the people in France were bad to them. So,
yeah. Oh yeah, they had to flee due to their like religious faith. Some of my ancestors, like, they were not Huguenots, but they were of a different Protestant faith. Like a few centuries back, they also left. So that happened. And then you have in French Canada, where they actually exiled groups of people when the British like captured Quebec, like the Cajuns, the Acadians, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, that was horrible what happened to the Acadians. It was brutal, really.
Yes, it was.
Well, it's so interesting, Aya. I guess hopefully we have a revival on Historia Obscura, and maybe somebody will be interested in like writing with you about John Lafitte again. Like somebody like Pam Keyes, maybe we'll find somebody like that.
Well, I'm interested in having you write about Roxelana because I don't really know much about her.
I'm learning a lot because I don't know what's compelling me to do this. Like I'm very fascinated about things that happen like in Turkey, Syria, like Middle Eastern, because I know, yes, like people do study the classics. You probably would have somebody with, classical training. They probably had heard about her. But I do find it very interesting that we don't talk about her. And she was the first queen of but you have to remember this too. Like they really hated the Ottoman Empire, but they were an empire like any other. And they weren't any worse than any other. So I just find it interesting. Like, it seems like a lot of jealousy has suppressed her, like, except for the European like painters and historians. Of course they remember her, but a general person, like if I were to do a quiz right now on Facebook, I'm curious how many people would really know who she was. Nobody responded to that post I did except for 3 people.
Well, it really depends on where those people live. I think maybe in Turkey, they all know who Roxelana is.
Yeah, no, they all know who she is in Turkey, but outside of Turkey, perhaps. But anyway, I don't know. I think she's very fascinating. I want to learn more about her. I definitely would like to write a post about her in the future. But I like how your painting's coming along.
Can you even see it? I can't tell if is it clear?
I can see it. I see that you gave her like red hair. It looks like, right? Like your hair is showing a bit.
Yeah, I'm struggling with her face. I can show you a little bit closer what her face currently looks like. Can you see?
I do see it though. I can see it. Let's see. It's interesting. It's coming along. I actually like it. It's very cool.
It's not really like the original, but you know what? I think I'm going to allow myself license.
I think it's okay. And also too, this original painting of her was by an Italian who probably never saw her. It's somebody in a studio. And somebody made a good point. Have you noticed everybody does that same pose with her hands in many of these Renaissance era paintings. It's like the way she's holding, I guess that's the scepter.
Yes, it's a scepter. It's not in my painting though.
I wouldn't put it in there. It's not. So anyway, it's just funny because I'm like, that's a very classic. You see that quite a bit. So I think we can deviate from a painting that like made conjectures about what she may have looked like. They all kind of get the face right a little bit. Like, yeah, I see a little bit of what her face may have looked like, but I don't think anybody painted her true to what she would have looked like in her youth when she fell in love with Suleiman. That's my educated guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, it's kind of the truth. Nobody was with her. She was in the harem. When she rose to power, she wasn't in the main court. She's in her quarters and she's going to consult with her husband and her son later, but she's not going to be out like a European queen out like in the court. It's a little bit different. You know, there was a division of the genders. So.
Right. And she might not have shown her face, you know.
Yeah. We don't even know a lot about her. Like we know certain things about her, but there was one Turkish historian who said a lot of information was suppressed because people thought it was haram to speak about the harem, like the play on words. Like we know things, but a lot of people were very upset. Like, I mean, in modern Turkey, I don't think it's a big deal, but at the time, like when people were writing about her, with the common people, a lot of the common people hated her because Suleiman broke tradition. Like one concubine, one son, that was the tradition. And she had 5 children by him, 4 sons and 1 daughter, or 5 sons and 1 daughter. That was a breaking in tradition and people were not happy about it.
Oh, and that's interesting.
They didn't even marry. Like he was the first one to be, I'm going to get married. I'm going to have a wife, because they thought their thinking was the wife would be a conflict because her family would try and impose their views and their power on the monarchy, and that they didn't want it corrupted. And a lot of people to this day like are either in favor of her, like she's a strong woman, like she's magnificent, or they're on the other end of the spectrum. They think that she brought an end to the Ottoman Empire, although one Turkish man said, you know, the Ottoman Empire like went on for 400 years after her. And then the other guy's like, oh, that's true. It's just like, it's kind of like how people argue about, it reminds me of like what they're saying about Theodosia or Aaron Burr, like when somebody's very invested, like similar kind of like people get very heated, I guess.
Yeah.
But you know what I thought was kind of neat was you can watch the whole series, even though it's very fictionalized. I like that there's this Turkish channel. They have uploaded all of it to YouTube. So if you want to watch it, it's free to watch on YouTube with captions in English. So I thought that was pretty neat.
I would like to. When I was young, my father and I just tried to study Turkish out of a book. And what we noticed about Turkish was it's a very regular language. Much more so than most other languages. So my father really liked it. And I think I still remember some words. So for instance, you could look this up. I'll tell you and you tell me if it's true or not.
Okay.
I think that the word for beautiful is güzel. It's a G, an O with 2 dots over it, and Z-E-L. And it comes from the root for eye, because I can't remember the words for eyes, but it is very close to that. So it's somebody good looking, you know, somebody that you want to look at.
Let me look. Yes, you're right, Aya. Güzel. It's yep. You're absolutely right.
So I would like for my rendition of Roxelana to be considered güzel by anybody who sees her.
So there's other cognates for güzel. Harika, do you remember that one?
No, I don't. That's not cognates. Those are just other words, right?
No, adjectives. Yeah, they're adjectives. I'm sorry, like not cognates.
Synonyms, maybe synonyms is what
it's giving the like synonyms. It's also saying that they're adjectives because they describe it. They're definitely synonyms. Harika, wonderful, fantastic, fabulous, cool, beautiful, gorgeous. Haas, which is pleasant, nice, lovely, pretty. Your painting could be very Haas. Like it could be Guzel, Harika, and Haas. And I'm sorry if I butchered Turkish, but I am not a native, although I'm 3% Turkish in my ancestry. You know what's interesting is other people from Syria and Lebanon, they don't get any of that Turkish admixture. But my family, we all seem to get a little bit of it. So I don't think I'm completely wrong, but somebody had to have been a Turk on our side of the family.
I guess so.
I mean, well, why else is that coming up? Everybody else, like every time they redo the reference database, we still get a little bit of the Turkish. I think that's interesting. I was like, what?
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I'm interested in Turkey, because like some of my, well, I'm Syrian, but Lebanese. But I think I have this conjecture that there was somebody in Turkey in my.
No, I believe you. And I've known people from even Iran who were actually ethnically Turkic, not necessarily Turkish, but Turkic. There's a difference, right?
There's a big difference. Modern Turkey is not of the Turkic people. There's actually an interesting DNA study where the people in Turkey, and in that book too, was talking about, because to be Turkish, you just are Turkish in your heart. It's not, I mean, and a lot of people actually had grandparents from the Balkans and great grandparents. So like in the book, they were interviewing people, and many people could say, I had a grandmother from Macedonia or a grandmother from Greece, like Nassim Taleb. It's the Mediterranean. Everybody was it was a very fluid region. And Roxelana is another example. She's Ukrainian, although, oh yeah, I was going to share the example where there's a modern controversy about Roxelana. There's a mosque that they dedicated to her in 2007. Well, the Ukrainian ambassador was very upset because it said on a plaque that she was of Russian origin. And they said, no, she's Ukrainian. So they changed the plaque because, yes, technically she's Ukrainian, but it became some like modern squabble over the ethnic origins of Roxelana.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, she is definitely from the Ukrainian region, although at that time in the 1500s, Ruthenia was part of the Kingdom of Poland. So it has changed over time.
Yeah, so I don't know why Poland isn't upset.
Yeah, Poland wasn't upset. Poland wasn't like, oh, our ambassador is going to go down and say, well, really, she should be Polish, not Ukrainian, and not Russian. But another funny thing about the whole soap opera is they keep referring to her as Russian, but the Ukrainians say, no, she's Ukrainian. So this is the modern controversy about a historical figure. Once again, people get very heated about it. So anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I think the Turkish language is very interesting, so I might watch that series sometime when I have time.
Yeah, when you have time. And by the way, it's not running away. Like it's been there since, I don't know, a few years. It's nothing brand new. I think they just re-uploaded it to this channel that I found, which I like this particular channel because they have the English subtitles and it's the full episode, whereas some of the other channels would break it up. But there were people that were making fan fiction about it, like about the fictionalized account. It's got a pretty big audience. I guess it won awards in Turkey. Like it's pretty well done. Like, and to be honest with you, it's better than like the American soap operas and dramas on TV right now. Like, I don't know. I'm not that interested in Game of Thrones. Like, this is more interesting to me because I'm like, this is based on real people. It may be fictionalized, but at least has some context in history.
Yeah, Game of Thrones, I don't think is considered a soap opera. American soap operas are usually about just ordinary people,
Yeah.
In marriages and outside of marriages and things like that. Whereas, the foreign soap operas tend to be about thrones, about the
Yeah,
power of the throne.
power and history. Well, even like the telenovelas, like some of them are set back in time, and like on Telemundo, like some of them do have a historical context. So I've never really liked American soap operas that much because I was always like, I tried to watch one and it was always either in a hospital or it had some really weird context where a lady fell down a well, and it would just be all
Yeah.
these really strange things. I'm like, what is this? I don't know what I'm watching.
Well, I used to watch those a long time ago when I was trying to learn how to behave, social mores, social issues that I didn't understand. So I could watch a soap opera and learn, what do you do when somebody, gets a divorce? How do you treat them? How do you refer to the divorce without hurting their feelings? Stuff
Hmm.
like that I needed to know because I was doing divorces for people. And
That makes sense. Like you just were curious, like what you could say and what would be.
yeah, what can we say? What can we do? What is okay? What is not okay?
I was never a big fan of American soap operas. I just maybe okay, so I started watching them a little bit more in the 90s, and they were just always so bad. Like they would have this melodramatic music and it would always be like some, but we were watching All My Children. I didn't watch the other ones. Maybe General Hospital and that other one, One Life to Live, were a little bit more realistic, but it would always be some like somebody died, they came back to life. Like it just was so like woo. Was not a fan. But I like this Turkish one. It's very melodramatic, but I actually like it. And like, to be honest with you, after I watched Daniel Deronda, I don't think I'd ever watch it again. And that's just my honest opinion. Nobody else has to agree with me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I understand.
Yeah. Yeah, it was okay, but I wasn't the biggest fan of that story. I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad I know a little bit more about that genre, but
Yeah, but George Eliot is a very successful novelist. So I went on to watch her life story, just trying to learn something about how she became this
hmm.
successful.
Well, I might actually be interested in that. Might actually be a little interesting to see, perhaps.
Somebody in my political groups posted a painting of an actor from Monty Python,
Oh.
and he was like naked and sitting at a piano and playing. And I didn't, somebody said, "Oh, how sad." And I didn't know what was going on. So I said, "Is that a painting?" And they said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, at least we can tell what's going on. It's not modern."
I
I still don't get what I don't understand
don't get it. Is there a I know Monty Python's really popular. Is there some sort of context in Monty Python that I don't know? That's
I,
interesting.
I don't know. I have no idea what the context is. I suppose I might find out someday.
Or maybe it doesn't really matter. Or maybe we can have one of our viewers tell us, comment, or people like just what's that about? To be honest with you, I don't like a lot of memes for that reason, because I'm not the biggest fan of like I have nothing against popular culture, but I don't watch a lot of shows right now, or I'm just not into like whatever's popular like in the share arounds. Like I like to share things that I think are interesting, but I don't find a lot of memes that like really appeal to me really. But I have a very negative view on memes, I guess. People don't like to hear it. So I have to suppress those thoughts about it.
Oh, you don't have to suppress any thoughts, not really.
No, I mean not per se. It just seems like everybody they love the meme is like I'm like I don't like there's one I don't get right now. It's this cat. And people keep sharing it. It's like this cat that has this weird like look on its face. And then they put other pictures in with it and they keep sharing that cat and it's like making reactions to like either somebody okay. One week it was a lady was getting upset because she got taquitos instead of keto tacos and that cat was there, or the cat was there in another context. But I just didn't understand, why do people keep making memes with that cat? Is the cat famous? Is it like Grumpy Cat? I don't understand, but I kept seeing that cat in all these memes. Have you seen that cat?
Yes, I have. I don't really understand it either. Sorry, I'm not in on the joke, whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought, is it a famous cat? Is it like Grumpy Cat? I don't know.
There are a lot of memes that say stuff like, before the internet, we didn't have this. And they show the cat, and I don't get it.
Okay, before the internet, but you know, the internet's been around since 1970 as DARPANET, and then they had it in a more rudimentary form in the late 1970s and 80s. There's a very interesting Unsolved Mysteries episode about this young man who that was his hobby. He wasn't affluent or anything. He was just into computers, and one day he cracked a government code and he got in trouble. But since he was a kid, all they did was confiscate his computer. But instead of stopping, like he started doing more hacking. So the internet's been around for, I would say, a good almost like, well, you know, and in some way where people could share and do things since like the 1970s. So it's not like when they say like, oh, before the internet, it just wasn't as mainstream, but there were people online that were interested in computers. It just depended on what your hobby was.
Well, yeah. Oh, I remember back in the 80s, we used to just modem each other big chunks of information
See?
directly to each other, not, going through a website, anything. You had computers. It was already the age of personal computers, but we didn't think we had to be online all the time.
No. But I just I guess what I'm trying to say about these memes is like they make it seem like, well, almost nobody was on the internet. And I guess like okay, just what I guess has happened is more people have started using the internet with smartphones, but I've always had a computer and I prefer to have a computer. And some people now they still don't have a computer, but the only way that they go online is with their smartphone. But that doesn't work for people like us because we blog or we make YouTube videos. So we would have a computer. Plus, it just seems more conducive to have a computer than to be like trying to do everything on a small screen. Like that would drive me wonky. I don't know. But anyway.
Well, that's that's not really the issue. I mean, I remember a time when we had computers, but we just didn't have to be online all the time. Even if we did go online, we didn't go through necessarily through somebody else. We just, we got in touch with whoever it is we wanted to get in touch with directly.
Yeah, you were just sending direct messages to each other, like information.
Right.
I think I asked you about this before, but like if somebody were to say Amatawel, do you know what that means?
Say it again.
Amatawel?
No. What language?
It's Arabic, but I think once again it's very Lebanese. I was told it means I wish you good life. But that's the funny thing. Like I look online and I can't find that exact, like the way that they're saying it. It's so interesting because I'll Google like the Arabic for that and it's slightly different. And then I tried to Google like the Lebanese Arabic, which I think is a little bit more, how should I say, like it has more of an, like Nassim Taleb says, it's Lebanese, not Arabic. He's very, it's just its own thing, you know, it's not. But I was just curious, like, if that sounded like, to me, it doesn't sound close enough to the
It doesn't
actual.
sound like anything that I would know, really, to tell you the truth.
And I don't speak the language, so I couldn't say. But I was just curious about that. It looks like it's coming along pretty good, Aya.
I don't know. I have these back and forth moments where I think I made a breakthrough and then something, you know, gets all messed up. So that keeps happening. You kind of have to stand away from the painting to see what it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an issue with visual stuff. You can't be right in the painting space. And
Guess unless you had like a camera that was like mounted to the wall and it could zoom down on you.
yeah. So I just having trouble getting the faraway eye to look right.
I'm glad you kept the veil and the colors of like, because I love the colors. Like, I'm glad you didn't change those. That's so great.
So problem is I get dirty and messy and my hands are dirty. And I have to kind of like touch the painting and I'm all clean. Then I try to clean it up and it's too late. See what I mean? The good thing about acrylics is they do come off with water.
Yeah, that's true. I think acrylics actually wash out better than water paint.
Yes, I mean that's why it was sold to my parents as a good medium for a messy person like me.
So I've tried oils, I've tried acrylics, and I've tried water paint, and water paint can actually stain like plastic surfaces. So I was like,
Yeah,
But
you mean
acrylics,
watercolors. Yeah, watercolors are messy.
yeah, they're pretty. The pigment seems a little bit more. It's difficult to rinse out. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
But I think acrylic is a good choice if you live with somebody who is picky and they might like, oh my gosh, there's like paints. But I don't know. Like I have things that have paint on them. It's just like that's the way it is. Like not furniture, but just some things I've used like with painting.
Yeah, I totally understand. I'm a very messy person.
But wasn't that kind of like if you look at people with their paint studios, it almost seems like they're kind of like proud to show that it's like speckled with paint. Like it's supposed to show something like, oh, like they've been working in there. Like it
I
seems like,
don't know. I think if they're really professional, when they leave the paint studio, none of the paint comes out with them.
yeah, that's why I always wondered. Like you see, they have these paint studios and it's like all speckled with paint, and I'm just like, did you have a Jason Pollock? Like, were you just like spattering it around your studio?
Well, I mean, when you get really excited about your painting, at least this is what happens to me. I'll be, I can't focus on anything else besides that. So if I were to stop to be clean and neat, I would lose my place in the painting.
You lose like your inspiration to.
I would just lose what I was doing because I have to stare at it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Do we still have people watching us, do you think?
We did have 3 when I was looking a moment ago. Did you want to like end it in a bit and then we just continue on painting and?
Yeah, I think we will have to eventually because Bo will need me to.
Yeah, this might. I think because we are almost at 98 to 90 minutes, which will be about 100 minutes, which seems like it's probably a good place to end. And you're gonna be posting an edited video of Roxelana on your channel later, so that'll be fun to see, right?
Yes, and I imagine that you will be. Do you want to show your drawing? Because I really haven't looked at your drawing yet.
Okay, I'll show you.
Oh, it's very nice.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing for hours. I still, it's
Yeah, it is beautiful.
It's I don't. I'm trying to get the arm part here. But yeah, I'm happier with it than I was. But somebody said it looked like Aladdin. But it's okay.
No. I like your face better than mine. Mine turned into, a different kind of face. But at this point, I'm probably going to keep what I got.
I really do like it though, because I feel like it has the red hair. It has the colors of the painting. And at the end of the day, we don't really know what Roxelana looked like.
Yeah, that's true. We don't. So I'm going to pretend that she looked like this.
Well, there you go. Well, I think this was fun. Next time if I was going to paint, I'd probably start drawing in advance so I could feel like I could paint. But to be honest with you, I probably could have painted because you cover over the lines later anyway. I just felt like drawing a little bit more today. But I loved watching you paint. It's very fun.
Okay, well, I enjoyed talking to you as well, not just painting with you, but talking about everything that we talked about.
Yeah, it was interesting. I hope that we get to talk more about art in the future.
Okay, so this is where we are right now, and I will talk to you later, Julia.
Okay, have a nice afternoon, Aya.
Okay, you too.
That's the nice